Okay, Annabel, let's have a look at the sketchbook here. We've got a mind map, which is pretty thorough. I'd say around the outside, there's the opportunity to put entries in where you start to think about how you might visualize the different ideas and points that you've reached in the mind map. Possibly also with some of your fantastic little diagrams or sketches as to the possible outcomes. Jeffrey Farmer, again, I quite like the sort of scattered nature of the pages because they're punctuated with these fabulous little drawings that you do. And I think when you draw with that precision and on that kind of scale, there is the opportunity also for scaling down the size of the outcomes. There's no reason why something has to be large to be a finished final piece. And I think scaling down can be a very interesting thing also. The Tony Orsler, I think you've got some interesting sort of versions of some of his work. It'd be nice to see perhaps some ones that you'd invented more, ones which might act as sort of visual cues for things that might be to come or that could be realised. Okay, quite a lot of visual stuff on Hannah Hock. It could be worth, in fact, it would be worth making this into a double page where you've perhaps chosen one piece and you've taken it apart more thoroughly and systematically, perhaps looking at the choice of formal elements that she's chosen. Also thinking a little bit about why she made the work that she did and the time, the political context, and so on. Which kicks in here, but again, it might be nice to really focus just on one piece. The clay sculpture, I thought it would warrant having a separate page, perhaps doing something else with the image on the bottom right here, so that, or this one even, so that there's a sense of perhaps movement in the piece, and also perhaps a few ideas about where things could go next with the idea. And of course, you've got Gustav Metzger. I'm not sure whether it comes later in the book or not, but you've got Gustav Metzger, whose work was very much about the temporal nature of our existence, things being destroyed and broken and so on. So lots of possibilities. This could be two or three sides, this particular part of the book. Yep, it's nice to see that you are starting to consider the sorts of possibilities down here. I think linking to the theme is very important, and you're starting to do that more. Thinking about how his work might in some way develop this idea of the self, or be linked to this idea of the self. Rachel White Reed, little bits. These have a lot of potential. These sort of thinking around the idea and what else could become of the idea. This is where a lot of the development of an idea can be marked. It's where a lot of experimentation can be initiated. But it's also recording a lot about what you're thinking and seeing in her work. So I think it still feels more like, as it would do, the beginnings of ideas rather than the sort of realization of some outcomes. So if you're going to go back and raise the kind of mark for these particular pieces, it could be worth considering what sorts of outcome you could make more specifically in response to Rachel White Reed. This is one that you've chosen yourself, and that's terrific to see. And throughout the book, that's always good to see that you've gone your own way with the work, and that's when it's exciting, and that's when you start demonstrating that you've got an independent way of going about things, an independent understanding, a personal identity to what you produce. So that's all good, and I would encourage you to do that more so. This particular piece is a good example. You've chosen to look at Garbo, and you're starting to pick apart the pieces. You draw it. We had a conversation when this was more complete, and I think going back to thinking of the formal elements, to the way that light pass through this particular piece to a way that it changes. You walk around the piece, the scale of it, the interaction of it. There's someone that did work with net called Ernesto Neto, and I think it's pronounced right, Neto. And the nets that he made were more like became environments you could actually walk into. So he could be definitely worth a look. Another person that you've chosen to look at, excellent, thorough bit of documentation and thinking about it, and in your own words too. I think making quick diagrams could be a really nice contrast to your very detailed drawings that you do. As parts of the book become more sketchy, other parts could become even more precise. And the sketchiness could serve the purpose of getting ideas down visually quite quickly, as well as getting them down in writing. I feel like this page, it needs to be a lot more to it. There needs to be several pages. The images need to be larger. They need to be more complete. I think completed also with the magazines, newspapers, materials, bits of photograph, drawings, and so on. Similar to what Jeffrey Farmer had done, but very much your own interpretation. So it really does need to be 2 or 3 pages on this one. Likewise with the plastic, you've got some terrific images here. This should be 4 or 5 pages at least with these printed up large, and then demonstrating that you're going to choose a number of them or 1 or 2 of them, and then link it back to the self and consider what else you could do. These were really terrific little results you had out here, and it just warrants giving more space in your sketchbook to them. Good to see mind mapping. I'd say highlighting particular areas or changing the size or weighting of the writing would help visually with this page so that we can kind of see how things link together. And likewise with this page, and the sketchiness is all good. So lots to do, lots of potential, exciting personal developments. We're looking at, I'd say, 2/3 of a book by Christmas, and there's at each stage more things that could be done with what you've already got in the book. Many of those pages that are single sides could turn out to be 2, 3 sides simply by printing up the images that you produced. So I put a link immediately under this video for the assessment objectives and also for the checklist of the course content for the 3D. So I'd have a little look over those and look for opportunities to build up what you've got so that the experiments are taken a little bit further. Okay.